Okay, let's do a little bit of troubleshooting on a leaking intake valve. So the Ramcharger, I got it going and everything, and I went for a test drive, and I noticed that, well, it started popping through the intake every time one cylinder went around. And it's not a, what do you call, backfire, you know, like a poof or whatever. It's a good stout popping through the intake. And I put my hand on the manifold, I can really feel it. This thing's loud, right? And it's every time one cylinder comes around. So let's go through a little bit of troubleshooting there with just that bit of knowledge. With that, we can rule out timing, because timing would be every single cylinder would be backfiring and popping and everything, right? Okay, so that puts us to, hey, this intake valve is leaking for some reason. What's some causes of that? Well, it probably be quite a few causes of that. So let's go in and I'm going to describe what I'm about to do. I'm going to go ahead and pull the spark plugs, look at those, see what we got there. That's pretty easy. I'm going to pull the valve covers and check everything to make sure everything's nice and tight, and see if I can visually see if there's a broke valve spring, because that could do it. Bent valves can do it. There's a number of things that can do it. What I think it might be is a broke valve spring. But I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now, I would start it and let you listen to it, but on the off chance that I might be about to drop an intake valve, I really don't want to start the engine anymore, right? Just completely destroy the thing. So let me get some tools. We'll get out there and look at it, and I'll get the valve covers off when we start looking at the rocker arms, and we start doing a compression check. Once you get those spark plugs out, that's another reason to get those out. So let me get that done, and we'll take a peek outside and see what it looks like. Spark plugs are out. Now, just to let you know, this is kind of a big cam in here, so idling a big cam is going to have a little bit of a fouled look to the spark plug. So here's their even side, or odd sides, so 1, 3, 5, and 7. So those look pretty much the same. This one looks like it's been running a bit leaner than the rest, and this one looks like it's fouling out and it's running a bit richer than the rest. Look at the evens. Those all look about the same as number 5 and 7. Nothing there. So I'm thinking over on that bank, one of those might have an issue right there, because they look different than the rest, right? So I got that valve cover off first. Visually, I'm not seeing anything. Everything's nice and tight. So the next step is to go ahead and pull that rocker shaft off. But before I do that, I think I want to get a compression test on this bank over here and just kind of see where they're running to see if that theory holds true, that something's going on with one of these front cylinders right there. Okay, ignition system is disabled. On the Mopar, just disconnected the ignition box, and over on my ballast resistor, I pulled the hot wire going into it. So that'll disable power going to the, well, it won't matter for cranking, but anyways, I have that disabled right there. So I have this set up on number 1. I'm going to set the camera up hopefully where I can see the rockers go up and down while I do this test, and I can review the video and see if I can see anything. Probably not, but I have the ability to do it, so I'm going to do it. Okay, ooh, that's low and we're leaking down, so I don't know what it was maximum, but we're definitely got leakage going on with that one right there. See how quick that's falling? So what I'm going to do is do that test again and try to rig this up so I can see it and then record what maximum pressure is, or I could just have it set up and have the camera look at it. I do need to review the video here for if the rockers are doing something odd as well. So I'm going to take 2. It is still kind of hot out. So I'm going to go cool down and review the video and then reset up to see what our maximum pressure is. But it shouldn't leak down like that. So I think that one might be our issue right there. Okay, that's done. First off, the leaking was the little Schrader valve in there was loose. Alright, so we all hit on the odd bank, the driver's side 150, but we had the little leaky thing. All the other ones hit about 155s where they peaked, and they did not leak down like the other two did because of the Schrader valve in there. being loose. So that didn't tell us anything other than the rings are seated good and the cylinders seem to be sealing. So is it a leaky valve? Now I gotta question that. I thoroughly expected to see something in that test. However, if we look, this one's running lean. All the other ones are running about the same, and then we got one running just a hair richer, but that one's running lean. I don't know if that's manifold distribution or maybe the spark plug isn't firing right on that one. Spark plug wire maybe not hooked up. I don't know. Raises a big question there. So what I'm going to do, I already got this valve cover off. I'm just going to go ahead and pull the rocker shaft off, right? And I might as well just put the spark plugs back in because I didn't find anything there, right? And just plug the hole, keep stuff out of the cylinders. So I'm going to pull that rocker shaft off and we're going to check spring pressures on those. Now, I don't have like one that'll say it has exactly this much pressure. What I have is something that can tell me, okay, this one's weaker or stronger than the other one. If we got a weak spring or broke spring or something, I should be able to see by going in and, you know, mashing down the springs and everything, hey, this one is weaker than the rest, right? So I'm going to do that test, and hopefully I'll find something, because maybe this isn't a leaky valve video. It's very weird. I really expected to see something off that. If it's a leaky valve, I should have picked that up, so don't know. All right, I did a little bit more research, and I talked to my old neighbor, you know, a friend of mine. He's an older gentleman who used to do mechanic work when these automobiles were actually on the road, and, you know, they had mechanic shops to work on when that was common, right? And I kind of let him know, hey, I think I might have a broke valve spring. What's the symptoms of that? And he started describing, like, oh yeah, it's popping through the intake real bad. He's like, yep, that's exactly what it is. And he told me, be careful checking those because they'll be real sharp. So I did check the one side. I'll go through and check it again once I get the rocker shaft off, because what that'll do, that'll reduce tension off all the springs and make them in free state. And I should be able to go through and check them very carefully because it's going to be sharp. Then I'll do the same thing to the other side. When I do that, I'll go ahead and check those push rods, make sure they're not bent or anything, and then get everything torqued back down on there. Yeah, broke valve spring. That I really don't want to change it, you know, on the engine, especially, you know, we're outside and we got that thing up there that's, you know, going to be trying to kill me soon. Actually, I'm standing here sweating just doing this video, so not crazy hot, but too hot to be jacking with this right now. That's going to have to wait till like Saturday morning. So, but anyways, you know, I'm going to slow down a little bit on working on this, and yeah, I'm going to go inside an AC. This kind of sucks. All right, I went and talked to a professional because I had a theory, and they kind of said that without me telling my theory. So here's what I think's going on. The lifters, I went and measured it as a dry lifter and figured out it has 160 thousandths of plunger travel, right? The lifters kind of seed in at some point in their running area. So what's essentially happened is the lifter has pumped up. Now, if you remember, I put longer push rods in because you can see how much longer that push rod is. This one right here was too short. It had lash. It's supposed to have preload, but it had lash, right? So I went with this one, which wasn't supposed to be that much longer. It's supposed to have half that length. So what I wanted was this one with 60 thousandths longer, longer push rod, which is what Melling said that was. That's not what that was. So anyways, that put me way too far down on the lifter, and what has happened now that I've ran this, and I hadn't drove this truck, you know, 3,000 or 4,000 miles. I've drove it like 50 miles. So everything's still settling in and breaking in, right? So that the lifter actually has pumped up to where it wants to run, essentially. So this is now way too long and starting to hold that intake valve open. If I were to keep running it, I'd probably have more than that happen, right? More of them starting to do that. So what I can do is I can buy a push rod that's 30 thousandths longer, which I probably need a little more than that. I can buy a 50 thousandths push rod, which would be more where I want. The 30 thousandths, or let me start with the 50 thousandths push rod. I can buy that. That's a custom push rod. It's a 7.550. It's $150. The 30 thousandths, which would be a 7.530, 20 thousandths shorter, is $32. I'll give you one guess at which push rod I'm going to buy. Yeah, you probably guessed it. So what that'll do is I could test this theory by putting the too short a push rod in there. But that's reassembling all the rocker system, putting the valve covers on and all that. Or I could just buy the one push rod you know I'm going to buy and put it in there and be done with it. All right, I have figured out what is wrong with the Ramcharger. We'll also have moved cars, so Project Phoenix will be next after Dad's truck, and then Jim has died. Like, don't start. Whole nother issue there, about as bad as this leaky brand new headlight. Cars. You're always going to do that kind of stuff. All right, let's check out what we got over here. So what I did was we got the shafts off, right? And I was like, okay, let me look and inspect the lifters and see if they have something wrong with them. Make sure they're come all the way up, right? So I guess I could have prepared this a little better, but it'll be all right. What I've done is I've took a push rod and pushed down in there and checked them. And they're all good and tight, right? So if we go in and check that, it's got it seated down there. It goes down a little bit, has a little bit of squish. You can't really see it. Then I come over here to this one. That one ain't got nothing. So we have us a real life collapsed exhaust valve. Now just because it's collapsed does not mean that it ain't opening the valve. Because the cam lift, the lobe lift is like 300 and whatever lift. And remember the lifter has about 180 of spring compression in it, right? So after it eats up that 180, just saying we just had a too short a push rod. Once it eats that up, it's going to start lifting that up. Now we're down there pretty good. If you remember, I put the longer push rods in there, and they were not what they said they were. They were longer than what I wanted. So we were down there towards the bottom of the lifter, which also isn't exactly where you want to be for a few reasons. Because you got that oil hole, and if you get that top cap plunger down below that oil hole, it's not good. So you don't want to be halfway on your lifter. I learned that. Of course, if the push rod was the length they told me it was, it wouldn't have been an issue. But apparently, saying it's 62 thousandths longer and making it 120 something thousandths longer, whatever, couple numbers, no big deal, right? But anyways, I did not know that right there. We're going to look at a lifter when we get back in the garage, and I'll show you that oil hole and maybe try to show you what I'm talking about here after I turn the lights on. That way maybe you can see. I can see fine, but you might not be able to see. So what I think we got going on here is, get the lifter out. Come on, lifter. Come on, don't be shy. All right. So if we look at our oil hole right there, and you can't see super good, but if you're playing one, you'll be able to see it. There's a gap in there, right, with our plunger. Let's get you up close right there. So maybe we can see that. See how now that top cap in there is starting to cover that hole up? And we're bottomed out there. So if I'm playing in that region there, like that, then that lifter really ain't happy. It wants to be kind of in the top half, right? You start getting to halfway and it's a little sketchy. So you want to be, half to just a hair lash. apparently these lifters here definitely want to be in that top quarter, not the bottom quarter. So I didn't think about that whenever I put everything together, because I'm like, well, I got, 180 to play with, and I'm, down here a little bit past 80, I think it's like 100 or whatever. It might not have liked that, but, something else, because it could have caused it to fail. But now I know that's probably not the best. So I already have the push rods coming in for the 30 thousandths longer that I paid $32 for, But that's irrelevant because I got a collapsed lifter. So we have solved the problem, and what's happening is the exhaust valve, it is opening a little bit, but it's definitely closed, and all the exhaust gas did not get out by the time the intake valve opens, which is causing the pop, and it's not sucking in a charge and just killing that cylinder pretty much right there. That's what I think's going on with it. Where I'm going to go with it, well, I could replace that lifter, pull the intake and replace one lifter. They've all been subject to the same, they're the same lifters. It's these right here, right? So I don't think it's maybe not the lifter's fault, kind of my fault, a little bit longer push rod, but we did have a failure. The other ones didn't, that one did. Are the other ones about to fail? I don't know. So I'm kind of thinking I want to replace all of them. If I do that, I can take that Mopar 508 cam out, which isn't the greatest cam in the world. I remember it from years ago, thinking it was better than what it was, and I'm not happy with it. So I don't know, we might be doing a cam change, but I have this truck to build. We have the 91 Mustang Project Phoenix to build before I get there. Also, I want the Magnum engine in the Ramcharger anyway, so by the time we get back to that engine there in the home that it's going to be in, I don't know, I might be too old to be doing this stuff anymore. That's the way it seems, but I'm pretty anxious to get on Project Phoenix, so I want to focus on my dad's truck. But we did get closure to that of what happened, so the Ramcharger, unfortunately, is just going to not be charging anything or ramming anything anytime soon.